Wow, I really am a fight or flight girly, period. That's why I wake up so early. Hi, welcome to my channel or welcome back to my channel, whichever one suits you. If you are new here today, please make sure that you go ahead and subscribe if you like med school vlogs or just like what this video is, which is to sit down, me giving you the lessons that I've learned in medical school. As you can tell by today's title, I'll be talking about the things that I learned during my first year of medical school. And I really took my time to create this list because I've been done since May 16th because it was our neuroscience mini board, yeah. But I wanted to take time to make sure that what I was saying is something that I truly learned and it wouldn't be just like academics focused or just something you could just readily hear in somebody else's video. I wanted it to be very centered around me because it could be more helpful and more personable. I don't know. I just wanted to take more time with it. So I did. And I have my list right here. It says 10 things that I learned my first year, but I have like 12 things on here. We're just gonna do our best. This is a very basic lesson, which is why I did not categorize it. I just felt like I need to just tell you in the beginning of this video, just in case you click off later, you need to invest in active learning techniques. A lot of the times we are kind of pushed into passive learning majority of the time that we're going through high school, college, but when you're in med school, you really have to transition from that passive learning to active learning. This is not to say that you'll have no form of passive learning, because if you sit in lecture, that is a form of passive learning. However, outside of lecture and outside of just like getting the basic content, you serve yourself better if you jump straight into active learning. My examples that I personally can swear by to this day is writing things down from memory. So you're just word vomiting on a sheet of paper, on your iPad. I love the whiteboard. Whatever form of media that you want to use, if you want to just see what you have in your brain regarding concepts, if it's not there, then you probably don't know it. So that's how I kind of tried to train myself to do, and I kind of perfected that during my last few exams. Beyond just the whiteboard method or writing things out from memory, another common one that I also participated in, practice problems. More specifically for me, practice problems that are more difficult than whatever you are studying for. So I typically do a lot better, or I do well on the subject exams from NBME. And I learned after my biochemistry subject exam that I needed to prepare myself and to soothe my anxiety through practice problems, because I would know content and then I would get to an exam and I would freak out and I'll get anxiety because I'm like, oh, I didn't practice or study this way. So I started doing like pre-tests, which pre-test is a lot more difficult than NBME subject exams. That's a tip right there. You need to get you a pre-test book. So I would do pre-test, I would do AMBOSS to some degree, and I will also do the practice problems that are in BRS. To me personally, BRS, those questions are not difficult, so I can never just like settle into just those questions. But long story short, practice problems, if you want to do it like me, do more difficult ones for your exams, especially the standardized ones, and you'll go into those exams feeling a lot more prepared. And another form of active learning that you can incorporate is reviewing your practice problems and verbalizing things out loud, talking to yourself, having a conversation. Or you could do group studies where you guys all have a conversation about whatever the topic is. Active learning can span so many different things. You can be very creative. All you need to know is if you are not testing whether or not you know the knowledge, you are not actively learning. And you have to be honest with yourself. If you're just writing down notes, rewriting, but you're looking at everything you're writing down, you're not actively learning. If you're only watching videos, but you're not having a discussion afterwards or doing practice problems or flashcards afterwards, you are not actively learning. I think that's enough on the basics, okay? Let's get into more academic focused things that I learned during my first year. This is a lesson that I learned very late in the game, and I didn't realize I was doing it. That's why I kind of learned it later. So you do not need to morph yourself into the perfect medical student. It doesn't exist. Everyone has their own thing. Like I said, I like whiteboard and practice questions. Some people like practice questions and Anki solely. Some people like videos, and like everybody has their own thing, right? But I was trying so hard to tackle everything all at one time without honoring who I was as a person and just trying to fit a mold of what I thought a good medical student was. And it was having the opposite impact of what I wanted it to do, which is like having good grades and going into exams feeling very prepared, because I wasn't showing up in my studies, I wasn't showing up in my classes, I wasn't showing up in my exams as myself. That's why I had so much anxiety around everything. I was trying to, like I said, morph myself, and you do not need to do that. A better example could be, I am a morning studier. I do way better in the morning. That's something that I learned and I kind of honed in on. However, some people are like, oh, I wish I was a morning studier. I need to study in the morning. But you can study in the evening. You're just choosing to want to study in the morning. If your brain can grasp concepts more at a certain time period, do not try to force yourself out of that and to do something else that you feel like would make you a better medical student. As long as the information is retained and you can answer questions regarding it, who gives a damn if you learned it or you honed in on information at 6 p.m. compared to 6 a.m. It don't matter. So that is what I mean by morphing into another student that you feel like you should be. And it is kind of easy to fall into that trick, because when you're in med school, everybody's communicating with each other. Everyone's like sharing what they do, how they do it, and you build this false sense of, okay, well, if they're all doing this, then maybe I need to do this. There are certain times where you could be improving. However, if the essence of you as a person is not suited in what you're trying to change yourself into, it probably isn't worth it. The second thing, I kind of alluded to Anki, and if you don't know, Anki is this spatial repetition app that is flashcards. It's an app for flashcards, but it's kind of very smart, and you can tailor it to whatever you really want, or how long you want to see something, how far in advance you want to see things. Like, you could tailor it to whatever learning style spatially you want to adhere to. I'm trying my best, guys. I really just started swearing by her like last month. But yeah, you need to build a routine around Anki. And Anki, which I've learned, is only effective if you use it for a longer period of time. I'm not saying you can't get by on using Anki like the day before an exam, the week before an exam. I'm not saying that's not possible. However, you get a lot more out of it if you start in the beginning and you just keep it going. So if I could go back in time, I would have built a relationship with Anki within the first few weeks of medical school and just kind of tailored it as I went. Because I had this bad habit of, I would learn a concept, but because you're constantly learning new concepts that don't always build on each other immediately, I was forgetting what I was learning, and I would have to go back through the process of learning something. Again, I wasn't actively learning in the beginning, so that was also another issue. But if I would have had Anki there to kind of help me remember things just before I forgot it, it would have been more effective. So just incorporate spatial repetition into your schedule. You don't gotta like it for it to be effective. I'm sorry. Like, unless you wanna go through the process of learning things all over again when you have board exams, okay, by all means. But when I did my neuroscience mini board, I felt a lot more prepared because I was doing the Anki for it weeks in advance. And then the days before my exam, all I had to do was go through boot camp. I was watching videos. I was making sure I knew what I knew. I was writing things from memory. I took my exam and I did just fine. So long-term relationship with Anki. However you want to split it, you need to do it. Period, point blank. You don't got to be perfect, but you need to do it. Next, and this is the last thing for the academic section, you need to make sure that you are not studying all day, every day. It is not effective. It will more than likely give you the results that you don't want to experience because you are not allowing space in between learning, and you are also not prioritizing other things in your life that will help you retain information better. If you're studying all of the time, you're probably not eating well, you're probably not being active, you're probably not cultivating a social environment, you're probably just stuck in a book or in books or in whatever you are using as your resources, which is not effective. You need space in between your learning. If that's the only way to get you to stop studying all day, just remember that. I won't remember this as well if I sit here and study it down for 6 hours without no breaks. You need breaks, and you need to make sure that in those breaks you are actually removing yourself from the content so that when you come back to it, it feels like it actually stuck. I cannot describe that to you unless you experience it and you do it effectively. This also means that you don't have to cram for things. Like, if you are making sure that you are giving yourself breaks so that information can stick better, you are less likely to have to cram. And this is not a tip, but just don't cram. I can count on one hand how many exams I've crammed on, and any of the exams I've done well on, I went to sleep. I am not cramming. I'm not staying up all night. I tried to do that a little bit, like in April. Very ineffective. That exam score was not very telling of how well I actually knew the information, because I was fucking sleep deprived. So do not cram for your med school exams unless you absolutely have to, because life was happening. But if you know for a fact that you just was not studying well, go to sleep. I'm telling you that right now. Go to sleep. Next section we have is the social. I know everybody want to talk about social. What is med school like? Like, how are the people? Is high school like? So the first tip that I have is that a lot of the relationships that you see lasting long term from like orientation or the first few weeks of med school typically stay similar, which means that people are more likely to be open to new relationships or friendships in the beginning. And if you do not like click up almost, I know this sounds, if you're someone similar to me and you're not a cliquey person, you're just kind of a aloof, you know, I vibe with anyone. If you talk to me, I'm gonna talk to you. I never feel the need to like be joined at somebody's hip. If you are not like that, just try to be like that for the first few weeks so that you can create a group of people that you can have as support and that you can support as well. I don't find the clicking up in med school to be a bad thing. I think that people underestimate just how human we all are. And if you put us all in a group and we're gonna be struggling together, obviously people are going to join during this difficult time and kind of make things better for themselves by socializing and having people there to support them. So don't view the cliquey nature of med school as a negative. Just view it as something that just happens because med school is hard and we're all human. So although I feel like I failed in that aspect, I don't believe that my failure is like indicative of whether or not something is negative or positive. Obviously, the high school nature that people describe of medical school can extend beyond just people clicking up. It could be people being mean girls or mean boys, competitive, all those things. However, if we're just talking about what I think you should take from your first few weeks of med school is to build a group of people. That means being more outgoing, and I know that's very hard if you're introverted or if you're someone that's very shy, but just go ahead and go out on a limb so that over time you can build on those foundations and you won't feel so lonely during the process of med school, because I feel like I felt lonely 85% of the time, and I feel like majority of that is because I did not find my group of people that were more than just like study buddies. I found friends that happened over time because we clicked up in the beginning. So because of that, this is going into like my next tip. It is okay to build a life outside of medical school. You don't have to only rely on the people that are in your class or in your school in order to build a support system. Some people stay in their hometowns or their home state, so they have friends and family still there, so they have a support system. However, if you're someone that moved to a different state or you moved to a different city and your family is not readily available for you or your friends are not either, it is okay to outsource outside of medical school to find that support system. And good ways to do that is like joining like running clubs, for example, which I plan to do next year, joining a fitness club, which I also plan to do next year, doing hobbies that you like so you can find people that are very similar to you and just put yourself out there and get to know people and create those foundations. I think that's something that because I was studying all the time, because I wasn't giving myself the ability to create relationships, I kind of felt like I had to resort towards medical school, and because things were not working out in a way that I feel would build a friendship for me personally, I started feeling down about myself, and I had to like reel myself back in, like, girl, the world is filled with so many people. Why are you limiting yourself to one environment when you like so many other things? Like, I just had to get that out of my mind. So this summer I told myself I was going to explore more, and I've been doing that so far. And I've been a little bit more successful in just like finding more people. So just don't feel, even if you try in the first few weeks and you're not successful, you can still find people in your class. Because I'm not saying that I'll never find friends in my class. That's not what I'm saying. But you can look outside of your class to see if it'll work. Maybe you'll be more friends with a PhD student or a master's student. Who knows? Just be open to expanding your friendship, your partnership, whatever ship Next, we're gonna go to mental health. I only have 2 things on this list for mental health, but I promise you it encompasses a lot because I learned a lot, okay? Medical school, first and foremost, will unmask a lot. And what I mean by that is I'm not just sharing my experience. This is the experience I've noticed, like from social media, medical school students, people in my class, just people in general. It'll expose a lot. And by a lot, that could mean you have a diagnosis, like a learning disability, ADHD, PTSD, like whatever the range of mental health disorders, medical school can bring that to light because medical school is so time consuming. It is so anxiety inducing that whatever maladaptive behaviors that you were skiing by on, it will come to the forefront and it'll force you to address it, period, point blank. Mine, more specifically, I'm gonna be a little bit more vulnerable, is more related to anxiety, right? And how I was constantly navigating off of fight or flight and didn't realize it until I got to medical school and realized that my entire life is driven by my fear of literally everything. I'm a first gen medical student, college grad, everything, low income, all that. So my fear is based off of my personal experiences. However, I've never transitioned out of that. I've never been able to sit comfortably and just like be an existing person without feeling like the constant anxiety is overriding me. That's why I studied all of the time. That's why I was constantly trying to reshape and reform myself into a student that I was not. My anxieties were driving me. And I did not realize that until, like I said, the month of April, everything became more clear to me. And before April, I had got into therapy in January, and I kind of like see her once or twice a month. And in April, I just kind of had that clarity, like, wow, I really am a fight or flight girly, period. That's why I wake up so early. I be waking up so early, ready to study. It be so inefficient, but I be ready to study because I feel like if I don't study, the world is gonna end. They send exam scores, oh my God, my heart is racing. I'm gonna die. Like, I felt very anxious, and it just all trickled into like negative maladaptive behaviors. I wasn't eating, I wasn't taking care of myself. It is all going to be unmasked. And all I ask is for you to be open-minded, accepting, and realize that you're still there for a reason, and it does not take away from the fact that you deserve to be there. Regardless of what it is, you deserve to be in medical school. You just have to be open to whatever maladaptive behavior comes to the forefront that you find to be very inefficient to your quality of learning, to your quality of sleep, to you as a human being, all those spaces. Be prepared for it. It's likely to happen. You will be okay. And my second and last thing for mental health, this encompasses everything. Sleep, eating, physical activity should be a non-negotiable. I'm not arguing that. Like, I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying, oh, well, maybe no. Sleep, eat, and what? Physical activity. I'm telling you this right now. If you compromise any of these 3, you will compromise all of them. And you will compromise your education. You will compromise your attitude, your mood, your everything. Those things should be what you build your schedule around, period, point blank. I did not learn that until April, okay? Everything was just like negatively impacting me. And I'm like, oh, I can't figure out why I can't be the student that I want to be. And then all of this just started coming in. I'm like, you compromise sleep. You compromise eating. And you definitely compromise physical activity. So why are you acting so shocked? You, with a psych degree, acting so shocked that things are not panning out the way that you want to when you're compromising quality things that help you do well or it will help you do better. So what I'm telling you right now, when you're making your little list or your little calendar, because that's what I did before medical school, make out blocks that you are not negotiating for sleep, eat, and physical activity. Period, point blank. I'm not arguing that. All right, so we're on to dating. I'm gonna keep it very short, very cute. I date men, so if I say men or him, I'm just speaking from my experience, but this goes for everyone. Date people with something to lose. You do not need to be dating people that have nothing to lose, because if they have nothing to lose, they don't give a fuck about ruining what you have to lose. That can go for anything. That could go for someone wanting to bring you down, someone trying to prevent you from studying as much, somebody trying to make you feel bad about choosing your career. It goes across the board. You don't need someone like that. You need someone that has something going for themselves because they have something. Okay, so my camera is overheating. I just need like a whole legitimate setup. Just date people with something to lose so you can set yourself up to have more adequate support and not put your life in danger, because that's a whole conversation for itself. But just know that people that have nothing to lose do not mind having you lose everything. And medical school is already extremely difficult to get into, and you don't want to ruin your opportunity by being around or dating people like that. You want people around you who will support you on your journey forward, who you can also support, because y'all all have something going for yourselves. And that does not have to be medical school. It doesn't even have to be a formal education. Someone can have a lot to lose by just having a regular job or having a career. It doesn't matter. Up your standards, period. I'm not playing. That little dude you was messing with, who you know for a fact is not doing anything with his life, he needs more of an incentive that you cannot give him. You need to drop him in med school. If you don't, you'll be stressing about exams, classwork, shadowing, volunteering, research, and him. Let's not do that. Up your standards. Date people that have something to lose. Okay, y'all, that's all that I have for what I learned in my first year of med school. Me and my little iPad. If you have any more tips or lessons that you've learned in your first year of med school that you feel like is very useful to help for like pre-meds and like incoming MD1s, please drop it down below in the comments. I'm pretty sure they'll appreciate it, and I'll also appreciate it because maybe I can take it into second year. Also, if you do have advice for second year, because I know for a fact that second year is the most difficult. By and large, everyone says that step one studying and just like the whole year itself is a lot. And if you have advice of how I can make it a little less a lot, please let me know down below in the comments. Again, subscribe. Thank you so much for watching to this point, and I will see you guys in my next video.